Well, transformation is what happens when someone can sustain the work. Transformation isn't just, well, something really magical happened in the room and then they go home and they revert back to the old thing that they said they were done with.
It's Retreat and Grow Rich, the podcast. I'm Darla LeDoux, best-selling author, coach, and retreat leader, and I'm on a mission to normalize transformation on the planet, one intimate retreat at a time. This show's dedicated to the coaches, consultants, healers, leaders, and light workers who are here to hold space for the truth that transforms lives and get paid for it. Expert retreat and business tips, strategies, stories, and magic. It's your weekly mini retreat delivered right to your ears. Let's do this. Hello and welcome to this episode of Retreat and Grow Rich, the podcast. I am here with the fabulous Jenny Fenig, and I just realized I didn't confirm my pronunciation. Do I have that right?
You're right on point.
Awesome. She is the creator of the Get Gutsy movement, and you can even see, for those of you on video, in her backdrop, "Stay fierce, get gutsy." I love it. This should be an amazing conversation. She is a coach to spiritual women on a mission, and her mission is simple: to help you touch more lives with your message and cash in on your calling. After a successful corporate career in New York, Jenny quit her six-figure job to do what she was put on this planet to do: coach gutsy leaders to rise to their next level. She does this by empowering you to tune in, do less, and make more. Jenny is the creator of several transformational programs, courses, and retreats, author of Get Gutsy, and the podcast host of Get Gutsy. She was named a Silver Stevie Award winner for Coach of the Year. She lives in Massachusetts with her husband and 3 children who make the journey sweet and a little wild. Loves include women's wisdom, writing, tea, yoga, homeschooling, and changing the world. And you can find her at jennyfenig.com. And we're going to give you a special URL in just a bit. So Jenny, thank you so much for saying yes to my invitation to interview you. I have been on your website in the past. I have, been aware of the way you coach and train women to really be effective leaders of transformation in this world. So it is so much of an honor to be here with you. And we both have this corporate background. Talk a little bit about your journey to getting here. What was it for you that had you make that leap and get gutsy in your own life?
Yeah, what a journey it was. Well, the root was that getting quiet and trusting the small, still voice inside, which was not something that I was really taught to do. It was something that I kind of came to on my knees, having gone through, lots of challenging experiences in my life. But, working in New York City was like this massive dream. I thought that I was living it, I like living the dream. I was a public relations executive, and I was doing the thing that I thought I was supposed to be doing. I was at the top of my game. I was working at this major PR agency on the biggest brands in the world and traveling around, and we were doing celebrity work and, working with like the biggest media outlets in the world, that's what we're working with. And I just wasn't really happy. It was just like, this is okay. It's all right. But I feel like life is supposed to be more than just all right. Yeah. And that has served me well. Like that knowing has served me well. And that was an experience or just a knowingness I received, having gone through a tremendous amount of trauma as a child, losing 3 people who were, important to me: my sister, then my best friend's brother, then my best friend, all in the span of 3 years. And so when you go through trauma, and there's like big trauma, little trauma, and, it's dependent on how you process it or not, but you figure some stuff out, and you can't tolerate, well, I couldn't anyway, just going through the motions, just kind of like clocking in and clocking out. Like that wasn't okay with me. So I found my way from that public. Yeah.
Jenny, did you know that? Like, did you know that early on that you didn't have tolerance for that?
Well, when that first happened to me, I mean, I was 16 years old at that first death. And then, but then 17 and then 19. So those 3 deaths.
Yeah.
And I was just like hanging on for dear life, at that point. My parents were divorced. So it wasn't like we were united front in dealing with the death of my sister. And I was just like showing up for the stuff, I'm like, I'm going to keep going to school and I'm going to keep being the leader of this and the leader of that. Like I've always been a leader. But I didn't have anyone teaching me on how to like heal and how to grieve. And so, no, I didn't know that. I just kind of kept trying to do what I thought I was supposed to do. But I also tried to numb out big time. Like I was drinking, I was, engaged in social drugs. And, luckily I never I never really lost my way with that, but it wasn't the most, beautiful time in my life. It was really kind of messy and crazy. So I had to figure it out just by going, it's like trial and error. So yeah, it was like a crazy time, but it was a lot of trial and error and just figuring out, like, again, once I stopped trying to numb the feelings, once I stopped trying to like push away the pain and pretend it wasn't there and like overwork or over party or over whatever, then I would feel the feelings and realize, oh my gosh, when it's scary to do that, like make no mistake about it, like it's terrifying. And that's why most people aren't willing to do it. But when you have the proper support and you understand how to process and grieve and, do what needs to be done to make it to the other side, then you really can have that relationship with the small, still voice within, with your intuition, with that guide who never will lead you astray. But that was something I had to learn. And, living in New York City, which is like one of the loudest cities
yes,
in the world, it was hard to hear the voice. But it was when I would, again, just surrender and say, you know what, I'm not going to like freaking work so hard or so much. The first time, honestly, Darla, was it was the anniversary of my sister's passing. And I had never taken time off for that. Even when she died, I went to school the next day.
Wow.
Legit. The next day she died, technically a Sunday morning. Early, I was at school on Monday. Because I didn't know, what am I do with myself? I mean, what do I do? Sit home and cry? Like, I don't know how to do that. No, I don't want to.
Well, and we don't leave space for that.
No, there was no time for that. I'm like, I don't have, that's not on my schedule, So it was one day, I wrote about this in my book. I had a breakdown at work and I just started crying. Like everything came to a head. It was a very stressful environment working where I was working. It was just like, everything was a big deal.
I worked in marketing for, big brands also for Procter & Gamble and
yeah, they were
maybe one of your clients.
They were. I didn't work on those brands, but absolutely. So that environment, like everything's a big deal. Everything needed to be done yesterday, and it catches up with you. And I'm a young 20-something. It's not like I had gazillions of decades of experience under my belt, like working in these high pressure environments. And so everything came to a head. I realized, like, I just started crying. A girlfriend who I worked with, we realized why we connected so much because her brother died when she was in college. And so like we had that in common. She really helped me. And I realized I need to just take some little time for myself. I took a half day off of work, which seemed like a big deal. Not the full day, just a half day. I was like, I'll just do a half. Cause it was like, that week or something. I was like, oh my God, they're going to kill me. I'll take a half day. And it was like, boom, that voice came in and I realized I got to make some changes here. And so I eventually changed out of that career. It wasn't the right place for me. And I became a conference producer, which helped me very much on the retreat. What we, we're going to talk about here with retreats, that was like a blessing because first off, it was an area I'd never even heard of before, but I just knew I was done with PR. I was like, this isn't enough for me. I appreciate it. I use it very much now in my business, but it wasn't where I was supposed to land forever. And so I became a conference producer, and my job was to produce business events for mostly corporate executives or the service providers who serviced the companies, the Fortune 500 companies. Yeah. So my job was to produce the content I researched the areas that these executives struggled with. And then I would create basically a 3-day event that would.
Oh, wow. So not just the venue and the food.
Oh no, that was somebody else. That was
Okay.
not, we had a meeting planner who handled that.
Okay.
I was content and speakers. And so I put together the agenda, the flow, the experience, like what kind of special things might we do with, a networking reception or some kind of icebreaker.
Yes.
Yeah. And then I would book the speakers, mostly corporate executives who would come and present case studies. And we wouldn't pay those people. They would have, budget from their own companies to come and speak and travel to our events. And it was like a big deal to, be a speaker. That was, a good thing for their visibility and for their platform and for their company. But I would have some budget, depending on the event, to book in some big name keynotes. So I had like Tony Robbins. I had Ken Blanchard, who was like one of the nicest people I've ever met my whole life. I had, pre-scandal, Lance Armstrong, who was the Tour de France winner all those years. Colin Powell, the former Secretary of State. Yeah, it was extraordinary. Some other big names in the design field, like Philippe Stark and Rem Koolhaas. Like I had a really awesome design conference. So that world just, again, it showed me how to create experiences. It showed me how to create something out of thin air. Some of these conferences didn't exist before I got there. Others had been there and I needed to grow them. I needed to make them more profitable. I needed to make sure people came back every year, right? Yeah. And then I learned, okay, if I have this budget and I hire so-and-so, how many more people will we get to our conference as a result of this name being on the agenda? Yeah. So that was like a huge eye-opener for me. I started getting profit share from my events, which I had never experienced that before. I was like, oh, okay, this is how that works. I started making some money. But the same thing that happened at the old place happened at this new career, which was that voice within saying, this isn't it. This isn't it. This isn't it. And so I had to get that courage up to follow that voice. I didn't know where it was going to take me. I didn't know anything about the coaching world. It wasn't like, I'm going to have a website. I'm going to have these programs. I'm going to lead my retreats. No, I didn't know any of that. All I knew was that yoga has saved my life several years back. And so I said, okay, my next move is I'm going to go through a 200-hour yoga teacher training. I don't know where that's going to take me, but I know I can't stay where I am. Can't keep doing this. This is like not sustainable for me. I'm under a tremendous amount of pressure. I want to start a family. I don't see how it's all going to work here. And I'm done. I learned everything. I need to go someplace, but I didn't know where to go. So I went into the yoga teacher training and that just opened me up. And I then discovered, I quit my 6-figure job. I had all this open space on my schedule and I discovered the field of coaching. And that was that. I trained as a coach. I started, working with clients. I started then offering up programs and eventually got into retreats.
That's amazing. I love that. I didn't know that you were producing retreats. That's so awesome. And I love what you said, that you learned how to create something out of thin air.
Yeah.
Because I think that a lot of people struggle with that. And recognizing that everything was actually created out of thin air.
Yeah.
Right. There's nothing that the powers that be came down and said, create this. It's all, it's all invented. So how did that give you the power to create your business? Like how did learning that help your journey?
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a great question. I was just speaking to somebody else about this today for their podcast. What I want everyone to get is that you have got to believe it before you even see it. You have got to have this rock solid belief in yourself and this thing that's coming through you, this urge to create, this desire, this voice, for me, a few years back, the voice came in. I was in a Kundalini yoga class and the voice said, it's time to lead a retreat in Costa Rica. It was very specific. And I'd never been to Costa. It's not like, oh, I go to Costa. I vacation there every year. I had never been there. Never been to Costa Rica. And I trusted that voice. I then researched. I went to the Facebook Hive Mind, was like, tell me all the places in Costa. And I've had 2 retreats in Costa Rica. So it's that knowing that when you feel it, when you get that urge, when you know that there is something and you don't even have to understand why. It's just that it's there and the idea has picked you to manifest through. That's enough. And that producer job, especially my first ever conference that I worked on, which again, I don't even know how to be a producer yet. Like I'm learning the job. I don't even understand all the vernacular, but it was like trial by fire. The first conference I produced had never been done before. It was brand new. So there was no history.
Wow.
There was no like, oh, last year we had X number of people and here was our speakers and here was our sponsors. It was like brand new. And it was actually called the Business of Marketing Strategy. It's like all comes back to me now. Business of Marketing Strategy. So my, manager, and then I had a mentor also who showed me the way, 2 different people. They would, gave me tips and pointers, but I basically had to get on the phone with people, most of whom I was cold calling, which is a whole nother conversation, and get them to believe how freaking awesome this conference is going to be. It was going to be like the best thing ever, the best 3 days they've ever had. We're going to have the most extraordinary people. We're going to have the most extraordinary conversations. It's going to change your business. You're going to go back more confident. It had never been done. But that was how I had to talk about it. And it was freaking awesome. And it did happen because, there were some conferences that were canceled. And so my biggest fear was that one of my conferences would be canceled due to low numbers. Right. And I never had a conference that was canceled during my time there. And it was because I wouldn't allow that to happen. I knew I was going to believe in it, and you had to believe in it more than anybody else. Yeah. You had to believe in it even more than your salespeople, even more than your marketing people, because they vibed off of you. And so now many of y'all, you are all those things in your business. You are the salesperson, you are the marketer, and you are the producer. You could wear all those hats. So it all comes from you. Yes, you can have support on your team, which is fantastic. But even if you don't, you have got to be that ultimate believer, because then the people who are deciding to come to your retreat or be part of your program, they're vibing on you because they're already a little afraid to begin with to work with you or sign up for this thing or get on the plane. They're already afraid, and they're having to go to people in their life and be like, by the way, I'm going to be away for,
Yes. I know. I talk about it. It's like, that's when it becomes visible, right? Like you can take courses online behind your computer and not tell anyone what you're up to. But as soon as you go to a live event, people are like, what are you doing?
Exactly. So you can't hide anymore. So you, as the leader of that, if you're not 100% confident, you're going to have issues. All right. And it doesn't mean that you're 100% confident that you know exactly how everything's going to go, and you know exactly how many people are going to sign up, and you know exactly, every element that's going to happen when it's, because you don't. That's the mystery. That's the magic of live retreats, especially, but you know that you will show up. You know that you're going to show up as your best for every single element, no matter what. And that's what you got to bring.
I'm super curious. Was it different for you when you started doing your own retreat and having that 100% belief versus offering something that isn't necessarily you, right? Because people run into that, will people come just for me? And, I see so many leaders selling the destination, like selling Costa Rica or selling Bali or selling their 3 friends who are going to do energy sessions versus going, people will come for me. People will come for the space I hold. Did you have any of that?
Oh yeah. You're going to need to work through that. That's our own hangups. You know, with that other situation, that was somebody else's money.
Right.
That's different. It's like my own money. Now, yes, I did get a cut of the profits, but let's say I was to go in the hole, they're not coming into my bank account to take the money out, you know? So that's real. We need to talk about that. It's your own money on the line. That's a whole nother level of commitment and courage that's required. And so you do need to get smart about contracting and ensuring that you're not overextending yourself and deadlines and when, money is due and things like that. But yeah, I have really gotten strong about the offer, what it is. And you need to be clear on, again, what type of retreat is it? Is it a very premium offering where it's all inclusive? and someone pays, this one price and their lodging is included and the meals and everything else, versus they're just paying for the ticket and then they're on their own for those other elements. Like, there's just many ways to slice and dice it. I've done it pretty much any way you could imagine. And I personally, again, through trial and error, have gotten clear on how I like to do it at this stage. I'm not a newbie anymore. So what works best for me and my business and for the type of women and the type of
what do you prefer
I want to do at this stage, all inclusive, because I like to provide a real premium experience. I want to go deep, like my retreats. And I think most retreats, that's really the core of a retreat. I bet, Darla, some people call their thing a retreat and it's really not.
Yeah. To me, I focus on transformational retreats.
Yes.
Is, going deep. It's creating that permanent shift in your energy and your patterns and how you show up in the world.
Yes.
So,
yes.
I'm going to ask you about the all-inclusive in a minute, because I love that you've honed in for you. What does transformation mean for you? And because you coach coaches on how to be good at what they do and build a business. And what's been your journey with transformation and how do you relate to that?
I love that. Well, transformation is what happens when someone can sustain the work. Transformation isn't just, something really magical happened in the room and then they go home and they revert back to the old thing that they said they were done with. Right. And so for me, and this, this might evolve down the line, because we're all here to evolve, right? But I have found really great success when a retreat is part of a larger program. So it's not just we're going to hang and it's going to be freaking awesome for the next, 5 days or whatever that timeline is. And then good luck to you. We had like a powerful time, but I like it when it's part of a longer program, because then we had some lead up and then we had this gorgeous time and transformation absolutely occurred. And then, we might have some more time together to make sure that you have built in kind of the guardrails, when you go back, so you don't like get triggered because so-and-so said, what did you just do? Or this thing happened, which that's just it,
it's
like
totally where the rubber meets the road. It's the way that I talk about it is at the retreat, you can create a new possibility and even give yourself an experience of it in the group where it's safe to try on being different. Then you have to go integrate it in your life. And the old you created that environment. So now the new you has to go deal with what you created. So I love that you support in that way.
Yeah, the support. And what I like to do with my retreats, I'm curious about you, Darla, just what you've seen, but I love, and this is me, this is what I bring, and everyone should bring their own flavor to a retreat, but I'm all about having a very challenging physical experience as part of the retreat. And typically it's an option because some of my clients can't do it for certain health reasons or what have you. But we've done everything from fire walking at my retreats to zip lining in Costa Rica to a Temazcal, which is a Mayan sweat lodge in Tulum. We've done where you like break an arrow with your body, and really gets into the throat chakra.
Interesting.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. We go all out. We do things, I have retreats even in my home here in the Berkshires of Western Massachusetts, where we will bring in, I'll even have certain healers where I'll bring their work in. I'm always doing some kind of visualizations, something that so like the physical stuff is kind of like the hard, again, it's the balls to the wall. Like if you really want to go for it, go there. But something that we did that was super fun because I'm just looking at the result of it on my wall over here. There's this kind of arts and crafts type of thing, because I'm super artsy too. These stars called window stars. And again, 3 kids, and I homeschooled 2 of them, just FYI. It's a whole nother, that's like a retreat right there. That's like a never ending retreat. So we use a Waldorf, like we're in a Waldorf educational road. And so I learned about these window stars through my children and their teachers. And now I am one of their teachers. So you use this type of paper called kite paper, and it's kind of like a thicker tissue paper. So it's got like a thicker substance to it, and there's like a shiny side and a matte side, but the light shines through really beautifully. So this is not necessarily like a physical challenge, but it's a mental challenge where, because they're hard. It's like origami. And if you've never done, like the first time I tried it, I thought my head was going to explode. I'm like, this is the hardest thing ever. I don't even know what they're talking about, because there's instructions in the little book. And so my a recent retreat we had at my home for my coaching students was a 2-day. And so each morning, which, you know, everyone kind of gets there at different times because they don't spend the night here, they stay elsewhere, and then they come to my home for the actual retreat. So people are kind of coming in, not all at, you know, start time. It's like we give a little range. So we wanted them to just come and be able to hunker down and go inward and do something that was going to be a challenge and see how they showed up for that. So we did it over 2 days where we gave them the instruction. Like I made copies of the instructions, and I have my team here to support, and they cut out all the little papers. And so everyone could kind of pick their colors. And we did it over 2 days where it was an 8-pointed star. And so the first morning they made 4 points, and the second morning they made the final 4 points. And the first morning I had them just witness, how are you doing this? Are you getting frustrated? Do you think that this is the stupidest thing ever? Do you think that just because so-and-so is going faster than you, you're wrong? You know, like just notice how you're showing up for it, because no one had done it before. It was brand new to them. And then the second morning, now notice how you're showing up for this with day 1 under your belt. Now you see the finish line. How are you showing up for this? And so they all went home with window stars. And that was just an example of not necessarily like a hardcore physical challenge, but one where they were challenged by this. It was a meditation, and they had something really beautiful to go home with, because they're all superstars.
I love
that.
That
was fun.
I love that. Yeah. I talk a lot about creating context for the exercises, right? Because like you mentioned, you know, how are you doing this? Or I say a lot, how you're being anywhere is how you're being everywhere.
Right.
So we do a lot. I always include some sort of experience to help bring awareness to how they're being and how they're showing up. I do a lot with interacting with others, especially because as a retreat leader, to me, that's the key, is being able to show up vulnerable and real and let your guard down and connect. And so I do a lot of people challenges, although we have done, we climbed trees once, like with that's pulleys and stuff. And we did, we've done zip lining, but any activity done with awareness can create a breakthrough when you create that kind of context. So I love that you shared that.
Yes.
And it makes so much sense, you know, with your brand, Get Gutsy, that the physical challenge just fits so well with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I want women to realize who they are, what they're made of, and the stories they've been telling themselves about how they can't do this, or how this might not work, or that might not work. But just to kind of put all that on pause and try something different. Just try that right there. You know, when you can set up those conditions for them to play with, you know, a new identity or a new way of showing up. I also love, again, I'm intentional about, especially if I want to do retreats, you know, abroad, that there is some really powerful, you know, healers on site, you know, body workers. And we give, you know, lots of space in the schedule for it to really flow. I think a lot of kind of, especially first time retreat leaders, they think they need to have everything scheduled to the minute, and like there's no free time first. Right. And that was my conference background. You didn't give anyone free time, you know?
Right.
So that to me, the magical stuff often happens when you're on break. When you're
I was actually taught, Jenny, like in some of the training I took early on, which it took me some time to detox this from my system. You know, like really don't give people free time so they don't have time to talk about or think they can figure things out on their own. Right. Basically. And coming from that place of, rather than being really empowering, that whatever they create on their own is actually going to be awesome for everybody. Yes. There was this sense of like, control the conversation.
Totally. I feel like that's a very masculine, like patriarchal structure. And I was, you know, the events that I went to earlier on in my entrepreneurial career, especially, there was you were in the room until 10 o'clock at night. I mean, there was no break because they're controlling the environment, really not controlling your thoughts, but like just controlling your whole day. Like you had no downtime, and you don't need to do that. Like, and I think even as the leader, it's such a beautiful thing for you to have some space and that's where you can show up most powerfully. It's like, I had this beautiful meditation, or I was on the beach, or I was, just sitting and something came through and I want to share that with you. If you don't trust your attendees, why are you doing this? Like, what's that about?
Right. Yes. 100%. So you mentioned, had a meditation on the break, and woven throughout your story has been this idea of tuning in and really trusting spirit. How has that played a role for you in the way your business has evolved? And how does I'm guessing that's central to the way you help women, make more money with less time and really be more spacious.
Yeah, I think space is the most beautiful thing in the world. And we live in this society that wants you to be on all the time and be connected all the time and be reading other people's stuff all the time and be scheduled and be responding to a text immediately. And it's like, no, I don't play that game. You don't have to play that game. You can let people in your life know you are done playing that game. And so, that's how I do it, is I give myself a lot of space to sit and receive and to nourish her. She needs nourishment. Body, mind, spirit needs nourishment. And I have not always been great with that. Again, the conditioning from like corporate life, which was you're there all the freaking time and you don't have free time. And, exercise is like whenever you maybe have a sliver of time, like maybe you get to that. And then if you're stressed, you just go get shit faced and handle that. And I just can't do that anymore. It's like, I've seen the light. So I operate with the moon. Like, she is one of my greatest assets. Again, wish I would have been taught that in school, but figure that out through my own education. Right. So I do very much create and build community around the moon. My group calls are scheduled at new moon and full moon, which has just been revolutionary for me.
That's amazing. I love that.
I know, it's so cool. And I had been playing with the moon for a while now, but honestly, a few months back, I made that shift. I was like, I can make this shift. And my clients are loving it. Even those who like don't know a lot about working with the moon, or kind of like, it sounds cool, but I don't really know much about that. They get in and they're like, oh, now I know.
I love that idea.
What this is about. Yeah, my retreat that I'll be leading in Tulum, Mexico in November over the new moon. That was an intentional move. So when you ask, how do I kind of work with this? You have to choose when you're going to lead your thing. They tell you, here's some dates. And so I look at the lunar cycle and I said, that's going to be a really powerful time for us to be there over that new moon. We'll be there leading into it. The moon will be going dark. We'll kind of just be getting really quiet and then setting those intentions for this next cycle. And since it's at the end of the year, for the year ahead too, really looking into 2019. So that was an intentional move. And the more that I have made those intentional moves, even when they may kind of, go against that like masculine structure that's like, go, 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 do it the way that the rest of the world does it, be loud all the time. I just say no. I say no to that. I think that's all not for me. Maybe it's for you, but I think for most women, that's not really how we're designed. We thought we had to get into that environment because that was made available to us once we finally earned the right to play, right? And that whole world. But now we're seeing that is not sustainable. And, it's not worth getting sick over you producing like men are able to produce given their constitution. So we can do it differently. We can work with the energy. And I hope that everyone really kind of gives yourself permission to tune in. That's where I've gotten ideas for where to lead retreats, when to lead retreats, when to launch a program, what to call it. I mean, stop trying to work it out at your computer. Or asking everyone else's opinion. What do you think about it? I mean, it's beautiful to get ideas and to get some insight. But I find that too many women do that at the expense of their own knowing.
Yes.
Stop giving away your power like everyone else knows. They know what's right for them and maybe what they've seen because of their expertise. And it's awesome to consult with coaches and consultants. And, you know, what a blessing to be able to do so. But nothing will ever be more potent or powerful than your own knowing.
Yeah.
So you do get really, really close with that when you get quiet and go in.
That's amazing. Jenny, I'm curious, you know, you have your planning with the cycles of the moon.
Mm-hmm.
Do you plan your marketing in that way also? Because
Yeah.
I talk a lot about, and to me, one of the huge benefits of having a retreat-based business is there are cycles built in. There are dates, right? And they come and go. Whereas if someone has an offering that someone can do next week or next month,
Yes.
it's like you're constantly feeling like you have to be offering the thing, and the retreat creates these cycles. How do you market in cycles? I'm curious.
Yes. Yeah. Great question. I look at that lunar cycle. It's like, okay, do I want if I'm going to do an early bird for something, do I want to end that on a full moon and like really be in that energy and power around the full moon? Okay, cool. Do I want to start this program at the new moon? Great. I'm going to start it at the new moon. Do I want to have some special gathering around this? Like when I have a program called Intuitive Power, which is all about creating with the lunar cycle, with your own body, with like following the energy versus pushing against it. And so I have an element there because we're going to be together over the autumn equinox. And so, okay, we're going to add that element in. It's like, you all just need to know what's going on. You know, the world isn't set up like this. The world is set up for you to have no idea what season it is other than like, oh, it's time to buy presents for Christmas. That's like, we're not talking about the commercialism of the seasons. I'm talking about a real knowledge of what's happening with the earth. Because once you know that, you are this unstoppable force. So my marketing absolutely is connected to lunar cycles, and I'm also connected into my own body cycle. For women who still cycle, you still bleed, you need to know that because, you know, it will affect your energy levels. And so if you can, you know, have an understanding of how that impacts you, then maybe it's not the best idea ever for you to be, you know, doing this big splash when it's day one of your cycle. If you're, you know, typically really tired and you want to be talking to 0 people on that day. You know what I mean? And it's not always the perfect science. Life is life. But the more that you can, you have the wisdom within you, the more that you can remember and honor what is ours, you know, as women to play with, the longer and more satisfying this path will be. Because I'm here for the long haul. And I'm sure you've seen it too, Darla. There's people and you're like, they have a lot of potential, but then they go away. You know, like they don't have the staying power because they're focusing on the wrong things, because they don't realize what's really required to like really be in this thing for as long as you want to, but you've got to be making
it has to work for you.
Moves. Yeah, it does.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love it. I think it's so interesting because I never looked at calendars to, you know, decide my dates, but I would all the time be, oh, of course this is happening on the full moon, or of course I have my period during this conversation. You know, I actually find it like the conversation's deeper during that time, or more going within, and the conversation's more outward at other times when you know, like the ovulation time or whatever, it's more like ovulation, just FYI, is connected to, and it doesn't always work that your body is doing what the moon is doing, but that energy is connected to full moon energy. That's when you're in your fullest power, because that's when a woman could conceive a child, when she is ovulating. So the more knowledge you can have, and most of us have been doing it kind of haphazardly, but when you bring some intelligence to it, and just, you know, there's apps you can follow. There's, if you want to get a lunar cycle calendar and put it in your space,
and then just add it to your calendar, just so you shouldn't be like caught off guard. Like, oh my God, I had no idea it was going to like, be a full moon today. Or
right.
it's like, there's really not a reason for you to be caught off guard by this any longer. And once you embrace it, you're going to be amazed. And I'm telling you, when women, and I'm thinking most of your audience is women, and they have retreats that serve women, and I'm sure there's exceptions to that, but women want this information. We want to talk about this. We want to be more plugged in to this, especially as we age. We realize, there is this beautiful design to what's going on, and I can harness that to grow my business and to do it with more ease. And I don't have to work like 24/7, like maybe I thought I needed to in my 20s or what have you. You really become this force of nature. And that's what I hope for everyone tuning in.
That's amazing. Awesome. So Jenny, you have some tools for people around working less and making more, and really knowing how to use their schedule. And that is at jennyfenig.com/schedule.
Yes.
What can they find there?
Yeah. So that is my Reclaim Your Time template. So many women have gotten their hands on this template. It's basically just a blank schedule. It's like, imagine looking at your calendar, have nothing on it. Like when I think about that, like, I exhale. That's so beautiful. So you're going to get one of those, and it's a beautiful design. And then you're going to get some tips on how to consciously create it. So this isn't about doing what you did before, the thing that's killing you, and you're like, I have no time to do anything. I want everyone to get past the busy trap. When people say to me, you must be so busy, I'm like, nope. I don't subscribe to that. I don't think that's a badge of honor. I don't think that we have to all say like, I'm so busy. I just think it's a cop out. And so I don't do that whole thing. And so this helps you get clear on what you want to be putting on your schedule, which is basically your life, and how to chunk your time, how to batch your tasks so that you do get more accomplished without, running around like a maniac, which most people do all the time. So it's just my way of working. It works really well for me. It works really well for those who are willing to make some shifts. And it does honor, what we talked about earlier, which is nourishing her, body, mind, spirit. What do you need to do to nourish her? That's, again, I'll just make that point, Darla, an area that I was not good at. Most everything I teach about is stuff that I've had to like learn through falling on my face. So, and I think this should be part of retreats too, is like nourishing her through your food, through you have space to go exercise or go lay on a hammock or go sit under a tree or hug it or climb it, or, that needs to be reflected in the way that you spend your time. Because when you do that, I was saying this to somebody earlier, it's like the things that you need to get handled, and not even by you. It's like I'm sure you've experienced that, like this magical thing. You're like, that just got taken care of.
Yes.
Or that just went away. I didn't have to do anything to make it go away. It just went away. Or this opportunity just dropped in. This is a phenomenal opportunity.
Yeah.
And I was like working out.
Yeah. And like, I could have been sitting there trying to figure out what to do and never have created that great opportunity. Never would have come in. Yeah.
Absolutely. So
that. You're speaking my language, girl, because this is a journey I'm on. I mean, Nourish is one of my, keywords for the year. And I really feel you.
Yes.
It's made a world of difference to make that. And it's really an energy, people think it like has to take a ton of time. And I was at yoga yesterday and she said, I need a good 3 hours a day to, just to take care of my body and my spirit. And it's true. Like you can make that much space. And it's also an energy of like, I go about this in a nourishing way. Like
that's right.
That's what I've had to learn,
Yes.
It's, a moment for a breath. It is, enjoying walking the dog. It is using the cell phone at home. It's little decisions that feel nourishing. For me, that's been the biggest shift.
Totally. And I still need to remind myself, this is the best thing I could be doing right now. This is the best thing I could be doing. Because there's still that like inner critic, the ego that's like, you should be blah, 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 like the other thing, you know, the other work thing. And this is the best thing I could be doing right now.
Yeah.
This is it. This is because everything we do is energy. You want to get more people to your retreat, you better be putting out this gorgeously awesome, powerful energy, because people want to be around that, because they know that their energy is then going to go to another level. So if you're not really practicing the thing that you're talking about, you know, your retreat stuff shouldn't just be happening at the retreat. It needs to be happening all the time.
Yes.
Right? You need to be like everything that you just said, eating this nourishing food. That's been a big improvement for me, Darla. So I started recently in this new nutrition and fitness program. I'm working with a coach. Just like, it's changed my life. It's like hard to even put into words. But before, I would just kind of eat what was available. And because I just was given a lean body, like I was just given a thin body. Okay. And, you know, that's a blessing that I have. And so I kind of never needed to worry about this food or that food or whatever. But I realized that was becoming like a cop-out. And I wanted to bring more intentionality to what I was putting inside of me in terms of the fuel, because we've got to be fueled up if we're going to do this work. And so now the choice of foods and planning around it, and not like whatever's in the fridge. It's like, no, I'm going to plan for that. I work from home. I don't have like the little cafe at the bottom of my building. You know, I live in Massachusetts. I call the cultured country. I need to go to the store to get the food. So that is the most important thing, that food, that moving my body, that going inward. That's so important. You know, all the other stuff, the strategy and everything else, that's like not going to mean anything if you are like breaking yourself.
You know, I was talking about this earlier, Jenny. I have so many people, and I've got an article brewing about this. A lot of people say, I know once I'm in front of the room, I'll be fine. It's getting people there, you know? And I'm like, I call bullshit on that, because people would be registering if you were being the person that you think you're going to be in front of the room.
Yes. Ooh, that's good. That's good. That's good. But that's the point. It's like, okay, you and me, Darla, today have given your listeners permission to go take care of yourself.
Yes. Let it fall through the cracks.
Yeah. You know what? That thing doesn't get done today. Like, it's okay. You're still a good person. But like, I have a non-negotiable now. I'm exercising. I exercise 5 days a week, sometimes 4, but I've, 5 if I'm on point, and the nutrition piece is dialed in. I'm doing intermittent fasting now, which is like totally changed my life. It's like, I didn't even know what that was until recently. And I'm like, oh my God, I have all this energy, and I know I can show up for my people. I know that it's not just going to be, I'm, at the top of my energy game at the retreat. It's like, who they're getting at the retreat is who they're getting all the time. It's just, we're getting to spend, consecutive days in person in this gorgeously, awesomely powerful place in the world. And so, I mean, what a gift as retreat leaders to know that that is your job, to take care of yourself retreat style all the time.
Yes. Well, I love that. Retreat style all the time. Writing that down.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I have some questions that I usually ask at the end, but I'm going to ask 2 questions that I know listeners are wondering. One is back to, you decided all-inclusive is your style. And then the second thing I heard is you also invite people to your home.
Yes.
So I believe both of those are advanced strategies.
Probably.
So talk a little bit about those choices.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't start there. So my first ever retreat was you buy the retreat. I think I had there a lot. Yeah, I had like, you choose your lodging level and blah, blah, but it was a low price retreat. I was like, I just got to get on the map. I'm going to get out there. I have this idea and I wanted to.
And was that at a retreat center in Costa Rica?
It was. No. This was, at the time, this was 2011. My second son was like 4 months old. I came through when I was pregnant with him, and we were moving from New York City to the Berkshires. And I wanted women to know that there was this beautiful calm world out there. Cause again, I'd come from this city, like intensity, and I'm moving into the cultured country. I'm like, I want women to just take a breath and be in this. And so I found a place about 2 hours from here, maybe an hour and a half. It was called Angel's Rest. It was so awesome. In Leiden, Massachusetts. It was perfect. We had the whole place to ourselves. You know, they capped out at maybe 15 people or something. It was like the best first retreat spot. And that was my first one. Again, lower end, like less than $1,000 for the weekend. And I gave a few scholarship spots away that they still paid, but I was like, this is happening. You know, this is happening.
I did that too.
Yeah. I mean, you got to do what you got to do. I knew the retreat was happening. And then what I did was I sold my mastermind at the retreat. And so it was like a sale on the back end of the retreat, if you will. So that was that. But as I've evolved, I chose to have these higher end retreats in Costa Rica, in Tulum. Those have been the 2 global spots that I've had so far. There will be more. But I wanted those to be a part of a more premium coaching experience with me, so that we've done some really, really critical work prior to gathering. And then we gather, we go deeper, deeper, deeper. We set the vision for then what's coming next. And I support them through kind of the remainder of that program together. And so it was just, you know, those are 5-figure investments to be a part of that program, to have that retreat. But I mean, it's an extraordinary value. I look at what it's worth and what I've invested to do things. I'm like, dude, that is so freaking valuable. Plus I built in, some of my retreats have had professional photography included. So we'll hire a photographer in Costa or in Mexico to come in and get shots of our women in all their glory, totally relaxed in their retreat energy. So that, it's definitely an advanced strategy, but something that has just, what I do, what feels good and what feels next level for me. Where do I need to stretch and grow? Because if I'm bored and if I feel like, it needs to carry a charge for me. If it doesn't carry a charge for me, then I can't get behind it with all of myself. So that's how I made that decision for the all-inclusive piece. For the home, that was an interesting evolution, because I've done plenty of retreats and booked out beautiful resorts here in the Berkshires where I live, and we have awesome venues. But it was, again, a download came in, bring them into your home. And I was ready to take my business to a new place. I wanted to really only work with women I'd want to have in my home. And I couldn't always say that. You know, sometimes when you're just scrappy, you're like, anyone who comes in the door, but they have a pulse, let's go. They have a pulse, they can pay. Okay, let's do it. But I don't play that way anymore. I only want to be working with action takers. I want to work with women who are willing to do the work. And if you're that and you have, you know, your energy's clear and you trust me and you trust this work that we're going to be doing, then I would love to invite you into my home. And so that has been part of a coaching school that I have. A retreat is included as part of that coaching school. And I live in this beautiful place. Like, people come here. It's a vacation destination. My home feels like a retreat. Like, you relax here. We have floor to ceiling windows. Again, my women don't stay here. My retreat manager stays here. And then sometimes, like, some of my people I've known for years and they're friends now. I'm like, okay, they'll stay. But that has just been extraordinary to bring them in. I'm totally comfortable. I'm relaxed. I'm not having to go here or go there. I feel just supported by my space. The land is very powerful. We often do things outside. It's like the perfect space. And if again, depending on numbers, because you have to be, mindful of that as well. But it has been such a cool thing. And I can't tell you the number of women who are like, thank you so much for inviting me into your home. Like, that tells
there's
them
a different intimacy.
Who I am as a leader. I'm not someone who keeps you over here. Like, come in. I'm a real person. I don't do the whole, I keep you over here. I'm here and you're here. It's like, no, we're in this together. We're in circle together. And so if you're willing to do this work and you're going to go deep with me, then come into my home, because we're going to do it in a very, very powerful way, for that particular offering.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And that's super helpful to know, when I'm sure that transition had you be even more clear about who gets in the program.
Oh, girl, did it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I needed to do. That's
Yeah.
where I was my business. I was like, yeah, I'm done with the other way. And
Yeah.
I know that there are reasons for that. You know, again, evolution is evolution. We'll see where it all goes. But I tend to be someone, I really like to know my people. I don't want it to be this high volume. You're just a name on a screen. Like, I like to know people. That's how I can best help you. How can I help you when you're just a name on a screen and I haven't interacted with you and like really understand what makes you tick and like what's up with your, you know, in your life and your personal life.
Yeah.
So, you know, everyone, y'all get clear. What's your model? Don't be bamboozled by the internet marketing machine that tells you got to have like, you know, 8,000 people in a program and 197. And, you know, you can totally do that, but there's lots of ways to approach this. And you've got to figure out how you are called to serve in this season.
Awesome. Thank you, Jenny. This has been so fun. Thank you for saying yes to my invitation. And everybody go grab your schedule and your guide for more time in your life over at jennyfenig.com/schedule. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Retreat and Grow Rich, the podcast. If so, please share your experience and spread the word. Also, please subscribe over on iTunes and leave us a fabulous review. It makes a big difference in helping to get the word out. And you can join me in my mission to normalize transformation on the planet, one intimate retreat at a time. You can find show notes from this and all of our episodes over at alignedentrepreneurs.com/podcast. If you'd like to understand the inner workings of my retreat-based business model and build your confidence in your retreat dreams, you can grab my book, Retreat and Grow Rich, over on Amazon. It's the entrepreneur's guide to powerful, profitable retreats. If you're just beginning to explore incorporating small retreats into your business model, or you've been hosting retreats for years, but they're just not as lucrative as you'd like them to be, hop on over to retreatrevenueroadmap.com. Here you'll find a fabulous free gift. It's an extensive ebook that walks you through the 3 core types of retreats and how to use them in your business model to make great money and make a big impact. In each of these retreats, I'll let you know where to host them, what to include, where they fit in your business model, and the ever mysterious what do you charge. You can find that at retreatrevenueroadmap.com.